All right, I'm sure those of you who are following the news a little bit are aware of the fact that over the last few days, I mean, it's been going on for weeks, but really over the last few days, it has dramatically intensified with videos and first-hand accounts and of supposed mass starvation in Gaza, and at the same time, children dying of malnutrition, pictures of children emaciated because of lack of food, and all of that. And the campaign around this is really intensified over the last, I'd say over the last week or so. This is all at the same time as, kind of let's review where we are. Israel now it has been on an offensive in Gaza, a slow offensive. They're trying not to harm the hostages, but they have taken over a significant portion of land within Gaza. Last time Netanyahu came to D.C. and met with Trump, he basically went home with the mission, cut a deal. Trump told him to cut a deal with Hamas. Do it, do what you have to do. Let's get a deal. Let's get the hostages released. Let's get this over with. Which I think was a very weak message ultimately from Trump, but Netanyahu bought into it completely. So Israel started negotiating with Hamas, and it started really compromising in the negotiations significant positions that it had. So it started really backing off of a lot of the demands that they had originally in terms of what land they would keep during the ceasefire and things like that. And what was evident in the negotiations is that Hamas had a strong sense, and I think a true sense, that Israel in some respect was desperate, that Israel really was desperate for a deal. And from all accounts, Hamas just kept increasing the ante. Okay, you want a deal, give us this, give us that. We want more of this, we want more of that. We want commitments here, we want commitments there. It just kept on going, and Israel kept folding and kept folding and kept folding, and Hamas kept asking for more and kept asking for more. This is what happens when you enter negotiations with a weak hand and with a clear indication that basically the global media presented, and it seemed to be true, that Trump had basically given Netanyahu the assignment to cut a deal, and that Netanyahu had basically accepted that assignment, and given his euphoric success following what happened in Iran, it was time to get this over with and time to move on. And he was riding high, I guess, in the polls, and he felt like he could cut a deal. But the reality is, Hamas doesn't want a deal. Certainly not a deal on any of Israel's terms. Hamas knows that as soon as they give up the hostages, they have no cards. Their weapons stockpiles are very, very thin. They have fewer fighters than they had in the past. They have very little territory that they control. There are other groups among the Palestinians within Gaza that are now armed and ready to challenge Hamas. And so Hamas is very weak from that perspective. The only thing Hamas has going for it, I mean, literally, the only thing Hamas has going for it, well, two things. They have two things going for it. Well, maybe three. Three things they have going for it. One, the one thing they have going for them is they have the hostages. And they know that Israel cares a lot about the hostages. They know that it is a massive priority for the Israeli public and the Israeli government to free those hostages, and that Israel will do almost anything to achieve that. And therefore, Israel has not and is not going full out to eviscerate Hamas and to occupy the entire Gaza Strip, because they're afraid for the fate of the hostages. So that's one thing they have going for them. And they're going to milk that for all they have. They're going to milk it. They're going to use that, and they're not going to give up on it. So they might free some hostages. There's zero motivation for them to free all the hostages. There's just no deal that can be cut with Hamas where they free all the hostages and give up the trump card that they have. The second thing Hamas is going for is their continued ability, because Israel doesn't occupy all the land in Gaza, their continued ability to terrorize the Palestinian people, to terrorize their own people, to kill them, to silence them, to prevent them from gaining food, to take the aid that is supposed to go to the Palestinian people and then sell it to them. Whatever money still exists in the Gaza Strip, is all being funneled towards Hamas because they're the ones who have the weapons. So they steal it. They steal it by selling their own people the food that is being provided through aid agencies, other than the aid agencies that Israel has sponsored and are being protected by, I guess, private security forces. They can, they can shoot people in these waiting for food. They can blame the Israeli army. And that's the third thing they have going for them. The third thing they have going for them is the West. The West believes everything Hamas says. The West is inclined to accept everything that they put out there. So they kill their own people and they blame it on Israel, and the West reports that Israel killed Palestinians. And it goes on and on and on and on. And, they pull out fake pictures of starvation. And look, are people starving in Gaza? Probably. Are children dying of starvation in Gaza? Maybe, I don't know. But is a lot of the videos and the commentary you're seeing fake news? Absolutely. But nobody cares. Everybody is eager to jump on the bandwagon and blame Israel. And of course, the United Nations, a viciously anti-Israel organization, a viciously anti-Semitic organization, is of course at the forefront of blaming Israel for any problems that happen in Gaza. And there's a significant number of people around the world, innocently or not, who believe the UN. I mean, it's an independent organization. It's supposed to be an objective arbiter of what's going on in Gaza. So people who don't know much about what's going on believe them. So they can put out propaganda, they can put out stories, they can put out blood libels against Israel, and the world will just accept them. The world will just accept them. Just from people on Twitter to the New York Times, the Washington Post that ran a horrific story today, they just accept everything the Palestinians tell them. Of course, the BBC, which is almost a propaganda arm of Hamas, Al Jazeera is a propaganda arm of Hamas. Astoundingly, there's just a complete acceptance of the propaganda that Hamas is distributing. There's few who challenge it. And I've seen a real shift over the last few days, week or so, but really over the last few days. You're seeing a lot of American Jews online condemning Israel for starving the Palestinians. You're seeing people from across the political spectrum going after Israel. You're seeing Israeli newspapers from left-wing Haaretz, but also mainstream newspapers in Israel who are not necessarily affiliated with the left. Attacking Israel. So, what you're seeing here is an orchestrated propaganda campaign by Hamas. And, Israel a few days ago, about a week ago, basically said, we can't go any further with Hamas. They've rejected every proposal we've made. We've compromised, and they keep shifting the terms. So we're withdrawing from the negotiation, and we're going to become a lot more aggressive. And there was talk within the Israeli military of the next steps, and they were going to become a lot more aggressive, and they will go for it, try to occupy the entire Gaza. And is it an accident that suddenly people are starving in Gaza when Israel makes that decision? Suddenly, Hamas goes on this massive campaign about starvation within Gaza because of this. No, of course not. This is a negotiating tactic. Hamas assumes correctly that by doing this, they will put more pressure on Israel to compromise even further. By doing this, they will halt Israel's military push to occupy the rest of Gaza. This is a brilliant PR tactical move by Hamas. And it's working. It's working because Israel's weak. It's working because the West is pathetic. But it's working. And what is happening is that Israel is succumbing. I mean, they keep saying, look, there really isn't starvation in Gaza. But then the rest of the world, and Netanyahu keeps getting phone calls from Macron, who's now declared his support for a Palestinian state, and the German Chancellor and the British, and everybody's calling him up and saying, you better supply humanitarian aid to Gaza, and you better do it now. And he's given in. The only one who's not calling for this is Trump, but pretty much everybody else is. And Netanyahu's given in. So now, every day, there's a 10-hour ceasefire from Israel's side, and they're going to allow for aid in, massive quantities of aid. Today, there's video of parachuting aid from the air all over Gaza. Also announced today was that I think it's the UAE, is funding a project whereby they will start pumping water from Egypt into the Gaza Strip. So Gaza no longer has to rely on Israel for its water, which is pretty pathetic, but has to rely for Israel and its water. And they're going to start building a pipeline into the Gaza Strip from Egypt that will supply the Gazans with water. And, Israel it doesn't look like Israel is set for a significant military campaign into Gaza. I might be wrong. Trump today said, indicated that he would support such a military offensive. But Israel has to deal with other countries as well, and Israel has to deal with its own internal politics. And internally, Israelis, particularly the Israeli left, or the Israeli center left, however you want to call it, is, Israel's basically, they're down from the euphoria of Iran, and now they're ticked off at the government for Palestinians starving. So what do you make of all this? Well, first, this is just the overwhelming impact of altruism here. This is the dominant. This is what dominates. The world was silent, by the way, when Syrian forces slaughtered the Druze, when they chopped off people's heads, when they killed whole families, when Sunni Muslims killed Druze in Syria a few weeks ago. Nobody cared. Nobody cares. We've talked about this over and over again. When, in a sense, Arabs kill Arabs, when Muslims kill Christians, when Muslims kill Sunnis, kill Shiites, Shiites kill Sunnis, they kill Jews, nobody cares. Because there's no clear intersectionality here. There's no clear altruistic, who are the good guys, who are the bad guys. Everybody seems to be on the same level of oppression. But no matter what Israel does, and no matter what the status of Israel, and no matter whether there's truth in the claims of what Israel does or not, Israel's always to blame, and Israel's always in the headlines. That is, Israel cannot seem to avoid being front and center all over the headlines. The animosity right now towards Israel, all over the world, in Europe, I think in the United States as well, really all over the world, has never been as high as it is right now. I can't remember it ever being as high as it is right now. And that's because of altruism has kicked in to the point where even people who generally supportive of Israel cannot abide by this because, this is beyond the pale. It's not clear exactly why, given that there's a war going on. People die in wars. People die of starvation in wars. But this was obvious that this was going to happen. Indeed, I told you this was going to happen days after October 7th. And I've been harping on this for, almost 2 years now. The longer Israel takes in actually defeating Hamas, the more the world will turn on it. The world can kind of accept Israel being really, really tough right after October 7th. The memory's still there. But once they've forgotten about that, once that's not in kind of instant recall for them, once that's not right there in front of them, they will and have turned on Israel. And it's been a slow process over the last year plus where the world has turned against Israel. They were distracted by what happened in Lebanon, and they were distracted by Syria and then Iran. But at the end of the day, the world was turning against Israel, a couple of months. The far left, the day of October 7th. But the rest of the world was turning against Israel within months. This is why it was imperative, after October 7th, to go all in, to get the job done quickly, to take the casualties that you're going to take on the other side, and and get it done. And the reality is that Israel should have accepted the fact on October 7th that the hostages were basically dead and gone into Gaza under, without the hope of freeing them, and certainly not freeing them through negotiations. And I will not give Netanyahu credit because he didn't do what needed to be done in the days after October 7th. He didn't do what needed to be done in the months after October 7th. He got Israel into the mess that it's in today. He keeps fighting, but he keeps losing. The reality is that Israel has certainly lost the PR campaign. It's certainly lost the world. And even the sense of the moral mission that is, what Israel is doing in Gaza is lost now on Israelis themselves. Their motivation to fight has been eviscerated, and partially because they don't understand, the better ones don't understand why providing aid to people who are trying to kill us, to kill them, right? Soldiers on a front seeing aid being provided to the enemy is bizarre. Netanyahu and this government and everybody failed to define the enemy as Palestinians living in Gaza. They insisted the enemy was Hamas. They failed to recognize the absolute necessity of winning the war quickly. If they were going to starve the Palestinian people, they should have done it in the days after October 7th. They should have shut off the water, shut off the food, shut off electricity, shut off the internet in the days after. Not waited until 2 years later. Not that they're shutting off the food, because the reality is that food has been flowing and still is flowing into Gaza and has been flowing the whole time, or almost the whole time. But they failed. That's the reality. Netanyahu did great with Iran, although stopped too early. Great with Lebanon, although stopped too early. And I still think, completely blew it with Gaza. Completely blew it with Gaza. So how you want to evaluate Netanyahu based on all that, I'll leave that up to you. But so at this point, I think Israel's, to a large extent, I don't know what they're going to do exactly. They're going to try and keep on fighting somehow. Part of the reason Netanyahu keeps on fighting is his own dynamics internally. The reality is that if Netanyahu stopped fighting tomorrow, if Netanyahu said, okay, we'll cut a deal, or whatever terms Hamas wants, we'll just cut a deal, and stops fighting, the government falls. As it is, the government is teetering, and the government falls because his messianic far-right crazy people will all leave the government. They've already said they would. And it's likely that they actually will. What's it? So he has to keep fighting for his political survival. But there is just no good way out for Israel right now. It's too late to be tough. The world won't accept it. I don't think the Israeli public will accept it. The Israeli public is now conditioned to expect the release of the hostages. They are demanding that Netanyahu do whatever he can to release the hostages. Daily demonstrations. And it's a significant number of the Israelis. It's not some far-left crazy people. It's a significant percentage of the Israeli public holds this. And, you know, the reality is they've never been told the truth. They've never been told what the real price of releasing the hostages through a negotiated settlement really is. And it's the world hating Israel. It's rising anti-Semitism. And it's ultimately the expression of Israeli weakness that the Palestinians are going to capitalize on in the decades to come. So there's no, I don't see a positive outcome. I just don't see it. I don't see how it happens. I mean, I'm on chat groups of pretty smart, intelligent people that generally are pro-Israel, and I see them shifting. I see them tilting on this issue. They can't. Altruism will not allow them to see a starving baby and in the same shot, in a sense, Israelis having a good time, looking healthy and fit on the beaches of Tel Aviv. See, if there's starving babies on both sides, they don't care. I mean, that's a reality. Altruism, you don't care because they're both dying. They're both pathetic. They're both terrible. But as soon as one is self-interested, then the dying baby becomes much more significant and much more call to action. That's how altruism works. I mean, the important thing about altruism to understand is that it undermines the way we view the good. It undermines the way we view the strong. It undermines the way we view the able. It undermines the way we view the free. Because the real sin in altruism is not helping. You can't help everybody. The real sin in altruism, the ultimate sin, the thing that gets you to the lowest rung in hell, according to altruism, is to be self-interested. Is to pursue your own self-interest. And as soon as that's observed and somebody is deemed suffering, that's it. I don't know how you come back from that. That is the ultimate sin, and Israel's committing the ultimate sin, no question, according to the code of altruism. So again, Israel should have listened to me after October 7th. They should have gone all in then. They should have done what was necessary then. They should have killed whoever needed to be killed then. They needed to occupy the entire Gaza then. They needed to flatten the place then. And there were all kinds of ways in order to, in doing so, that would have still, relatively speaking, minimized the civilian casualties, if that's a concern. There's a lot of ways they could have done that, and there were proposals on the table, and they didn't do it. And now they're paying the price, because you cannot continue a war like this for 2 years and expect people to continue supporting them, because it's not going to happen. It is not going to happen. Israel's real sin is being strong, competent, rich, able, and actually trying to fight for their own self-interest, self-defense. That's the sin. That's unforgivable. Israel, everybody would have loved Israel if after October 7th they would have rolled up and pretended they were dead and been miserable and sad and pathetic and just, it's the fact that Israel stood up and said, we will destroy these people. We will destroy Hamas. And did it, and then did what they did in Lebanon, brilliant, and then did what they did in Iran, brilliant. That is what really pisses people off. Really pisses people off. Anyway, so that's where we are in Gaza. I don't know what happens next. There's a lot of aid trucks going in there right now. Aid trucks is hard to tell if the UN is actually driving them in, but they're parachuting aid in. This a nonprofit that is distributing aid in Gaza continues to do so. The UN is incompetent, so they're a lot more complicated and they're a lot less efficient in bringing in aid. But I think they will start driving in large amounts of aid. A lot of that aid that the UN provides will be captured by Hamas, will be then sold by Hamas. Oh, there was a New York Times story that said, according to Israeli sources, there's no evidence Hamas is stealing the aid. It's just like, oh God. That's just the kind of propaganda. I mean, there's so much evidence that Hamas is stealing the aid. I mean, there's literally videos of Hamas stealing the aid. And there's Palestinians telling us that Hamas is stealing the aid. Palestinians telling us that the aid is then being sold in the marketplace by Hamas. But people are so gullible. They're so happy when Israel is somehow blamed for stuff. Israel is very close, to winning the ground operation in Gaza, no question. The question is, can they finish it? Will they finish it? Because, unless Hamas is willing to compromise, that means some of the hostages are going to be killed. And what is the world, by the time they finish it, what is the world going to think of Israel versus if they destroyed 80% of the buildings in Gaza in the first 3 months of the war, it would already be done. We'd be over. Gaza would be it. There'd be nothing to talk about. And the world would have barely blinked. They wouldn't have even noticed because it would have been still part of the emotion of October 7th and Israel justifiably occupying Gaza because of what happened, and it would have blown over. Now it's not going to blow over, but we'll see. All right, let's see. So that's where we are. Hard to tell. Again, Israel has been very close to victory. This is the third time, I think. I mean, other time they've retreated. And by the way, the deal on the table in Doha, which Israel agreed to and Hamas didn't, involved Israel retreating from most of the land they had occupied, including the Netzarim corridor, which they've retreated now twice already from, and were ready to retreat again. So, I mean, you can't win wars like this, not really, and certainly not not in the long run. Nobody seems to learn from all the American failures at trying to win wars like this, and Israel should have known better. It was warned by not just by me, but by many others, that this was not the way to win the war. But it is what it is. We'll see what happens. Hopefully, I mean, the only thing going for Israel is how weak Hamas is. And the fact is, Israel has done a good job at basically isolating Hamas. That is, the Iranians, they're very, very difficult for the Iranians to support Hamas. They don't have a direct link. The Hezbollah is finished. Syria is no longer an Iranian stronghold. Iran is weak. The Houthis I guess the Houthis are still around, but they don't have much of an impact one way or the other. And this is what happens. Conditions don't create extremists. I mean, I don't know wherever conditions create extremists. Indeed, starvation in Gaza will actually reduce extremism, because the Gazans understand more so than the Israelis, and certainly more so than weak Westerners, that the reason there's starvation in Gaza is because of Hamas. They're much more likely to blame Hamas for what's going on in Gaza than Europeans are. Europeans will blame Israel. Israelis will blame Israel. Palestinians, no, it's Hamas. And they're much more likely to turn against Hamas, given this starvation. Indeed, there are now groups within Gaza who are acting against Hamas. Oops, what did I do there? Armed groups that they're so upset at.